but we will see. All right, we are live, and I will go ahead and let the two of you introduce yourselves. You've both been guests on our live segment in the past. And we're going to be taking, we do this every Wednesday. It's just our Ask the Expert segment, but we're just going to be taking about 30 minutes to discuss different topics surrounding diabetes, pre-diabetes, and questions. We're going to try to address some questions that come from our audience and then also from members of our Facebook group. So I will let the two of you introduce ourselves. Dr. Burd, if you'd like to start.
Okay, happy to start. I'm Dr. John Burd. I have a PhD in biochemistry. I was the founder of Lysulin. I was also the founder of Dexcom, which is now helping 1 or 2 million people all over the planet improve their diabetes through continuous glucose monitoring. I've not been involved with Dexcom for many years now, but it's a great story. And I actually wrote a book about Lysulin, and it's on Amazon. And if you want to read about me, you can go to www.jbird.com. So that's a short introduction. Denise?
Hi, I'm glad you guys are bringing us all together today. I'm Denise Panczyr, diabetes and holistic lifestyle coach, author of The Virgin Diabetic. I consider myself, I guess, mostly an ex-diabetic, but technically, I guess once you're diagnosed, you're diagnosed. I'm also a Lysulin user myself. Many of my clients are also Lysulin users. And I work every day to help people reverse the effects of diabetes and get their health back and get off either all or most of their medication. And for some, getting off of insulin or greatly lowering those dosages. So all good things I think we're going to talk about today.
Excellent. Thank you so much to both of you. And of course, my name is Brianna Fuente. I'm the digital marketing manager for Lysulin, and I am just here to get everybody online and get some good conversation topics going. So what I'd like to do is, number one, to all of our viewers who are with us now and will be joining us through the segment, we welcome questions. So if either Dr. Burd or Denise touch on a subject that you have a question about, please put it in the comments. We'll see it on our end and do our best to address it. If we don't address it in our segment, then we will most certainly come back through the comments and address it later on in the day. So definitely ask questions. We welcome those. Craig, thank you so much for joining us. What I'd like to do is we get a ton of questions in our Facebook group. And if you're not part of our Facebook group yet, look us up, please, Diabetes Management and Prevention. We've got nearly 1,000 members, and we all just kind of help each other learn. So it's all about education and building a community to support everyone in their journey. But I want to address just some commonly asked questions that we see in the group. One of the very common themes that we see people looking for information on is eating with diabetes and how to eat to maintain healthy A1C levels and how to eat to maintain healthy blood sugar levels. These are super important topics, and we definitely want to touch on those today. So I'm just going to go through some of the questions, and I'll let the two of you, Dr. Burd and Denise, kind of roundtable things, and we'll just create a good conversation back and forth. So one of the first questions that came in is from Sarah. She said that she's been working on getting her blood sugar levels down, and she's finally getting them in normal ranges. She said she checked it once at 3 a.m. and it was 93, and it really scared her. So she was afraid to go back to sleep, ate a couple of apple slices. She is wondering, for when you wake up in the middle of the night and are feeling a little bit off, she can't find any info on what a normal reading should be around that time. Do either of you have any information that you could share with her in terms of what a normal reading should be for blood sugar levels when you wake up in the middle of the night?
Sure, I'm happy to tackle that one. In fact, I was able to get a little bit more information from Sarah as well. And so I think sometimes before we always want to be quick to answer. we should always ask some additional questions, like, is someone taking insulin? And that's a very important question before we throw some answers out there, because insulin can quickly push your glucose levels down depending on how much you're using, the time you take it, and if you're combining quick acting insulin and or the slow basal insulin, which many times people will take before they go to bed. So for her, based on what her response was, that she's on both insulins, her fasting insulin, or her fasting glucose normally in the morning is about 125. So at a 93 at 3 a.m., that would not overly concern me based on the information that we currently have, because right around that time of the morning, your adrenals are going to start kicking in, getting the body ready to wake up in the morning, which means she's got an imbalance between glucose and insulin levels that she probably will show a higher fasting anyway. So by 3 a.m., if she has not dipped down very low or below 70, and she was more in the 90s, she probably does not need to eat those apple slices to add more sugar that she has trouble converting today. Long-winded answer, I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Thank you so much. It's, I mean, the more information that we can provide, the better. So we're happy to have you talking. Dr. Burd, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that?
No, the fasting blood sugar is what the tests that doctors use. They'll order, when you see a doctor, they'll usually order a fasting glucose test. And it has to be, it used to be below 119. I don't know, Denise, has that changed lately? But if you're below 119, that means that that's what normal people without diabetes will have as a fasting blood sugar result. And, you know, your body, sometimes people have morning high, that have diabetes have high glucose in the morning, and that has something to do, as Denise said, if they're taking insulin or if they happen to eat something late at night, that could also potentially cause a high glucose at night or in the morning. So, you know, with regard to food, I'm a champion of the don't eat carbohydrates if you want to keep your blood sugar low, because there are just so few carbohydrates that have a low, what's called a glycemic index, which is how much glucose they put into your bloodstream in a serving. And there's only like 5 or 6. I think we posted a little thing that said how many carbohydrates are in. Spinach is the lowest, I think, and then it goes up from there. But there's not very many carbohydrates that you can eat. However, you can eat as much eggs and protein in meat, like, you know, beef, chicken, pork, fish, shrimp. You can eat as much of that as you can, as you desire, and it will not really raise your blood sugar levels. So, you know, if you get off of carbohydrates, do some exercise, and maybe supplement with Lysulin. That's the best thing you can do for your diabetes. And I didn't mention, we now have Lysulin is available in 5 different forms. We have capsules, chewable tablets, once a day powder, liquid, and we just introduced a meal replacement shake. Now, all these are on our website now. And, you know, again, Lysulin has been proven to help people with prediabetes and diabetes maintain their normal, maintain a good glucose and lower their A1C and help their insulin resistance. So I'm so pleased with how well the product works.
It is good. I take the once a day powder. That one, I love that. Once a day, I'm good.
Do you drink it in a cup of water, or do you put it in something else?
You know what? I just put it in a little bit of water.
Yeah.
And it works fine. It's quick, it's easy, and yeah, that one I love.
Yeah. Some people don't care for the taste. I think it's kind of a neutral tasting, like a little bit salty lemonade is the way I describe it. How would you describe it?
Yeah, and that's the reason I don't actually put it in anything else, because, you know, it's got that lemonade-like flavor to it. So just a little bit in water and I'm good.
Yeah, I've tried putting in coffee. That's a bad idea, but I think a lot of people, if they're in tea, so it's possible that if you drink tea in the morning, you could add it to that and make it.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Kind of lemon it up a little bit. That's
an idea. Yeah, the shakes that we introduced, the weight loss shake, it comes in chocolate and vanilla flavors, and I think they taste great. We had a couple people that didn't care for the taste, but most of the people that have tried it like the taste of it. One woman just gave it a fabulous, 5-star review that she just emailed me about how much she liked the shake.
Awesome. Oh, that's an easy way to be able to combine a meal and the Lysulin.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming out in the next month or so surrounding this shake. So I'm super excited. We're going to be actually tapping into our Facebook group. So make sure to stay tuned if you're watching this now or in the next few weeks in February and March, because we're going to be tapping into our Facebook group to get some of you some samples. So we'll probably look for about 200 or so people who are interested in trying out both forms of this shake, the chocolate and the vanilla flavor. We're going to look for some feedback. We want to know how it works for you, what you think about the taste, and if it's something that that seems to be a good vehicle to get Lysulin into your daily routine, because it's definitely, we've got a lot of different forms or several different forms of taking Lysulin. But combining it with this weight loss shake where it's a 1-a-day thing, you can replace a meal and you can, knock out 500 to 1,000 calories out of your daily intake. It just kind of presents a multi-pronged approach to getting all of your levels back down to a healthy place and losing weight at the same time. So super, super excited about that. We've got a lot of good stuff coming up with the shake. Speaking of Lysulin, we've got some really good feedback that we're seeing on our social media campaigns. Of course, we're running ads and posting quite a bit on the Lysulin side, and we've got some really good feedback in terms of people who have, purchased the product, the Lysulin capsules or powder, and been taking it for a month or 2 or 3, and are now coming back to share their feedback, which is really cool. We're seeing a lot of positive stuff here. I do have some questions though that came through. One of them is from Rhonda. She is taking metformin right now. So we do get this question quite a bit for people who are currently on a diabetic medication regimen. Metformin obviously is a very commonly taken medication. Can Lysulin be taken with metformin? And additionally, is there potential for people to be able to wean themselves off of those drugs that they experience really negative symptoms with using the Lysulin?
Well, Denise, let me chime in on this one. We've had a lot of people that almost everybody with type 2 diabetes almost immediately gets put on a prescription drug, and it's usually metformin by their doctor who loves to write prescriptions. And we've had a lot of Lysulin users. We recommend that they actually continue their metformin for a month with Lysulin. And if their A1C improves, then they can try tapering off their metformin. A lot of people are on 2,000 milligrams a day, so they can drop down to 1,000 milligrams a day and check your A1C in the following month with Lysulin, using Lysulin. And if it continues to drop, you can taper yourself off of metformin. I'm not a medical doctor. I've got a PhD, so take everything I say with a grain of PhD salt. I'm not a medical doctor, so I can't tell you how to change your medical therapy. That's between you and your healthcare provider. But I can give you my opinions, and I'm happy to do that. Denise,
and I can add, yeah, I can definitely add to that. And again, I'm not a physician, so I do not tell folks when to wean themselves off. I want them to have that discussion with their physician. But what I can do is help those folks prep for that discussion so it goes appropriately, and physicians can always call me, which some do. But Dr. Burd is right. You absolutely can learn to wean off of a metformin. He's right, 2,000 is about the highest that the dosages that we see out there. I've seen a few slightly higher, but at that point, most people are then getting a second medication. One thing I would also suggest, in addition to checking your A1C, is check your glucose throughout the day before and after meals. And what you may see when you start to wean yourself off of metformin or any other diabetes medication is that you will see some erratic glucose levels, and that is absolutely normal. And then how you continue to normalize it is with the food choices in addition to the Lysulin that you're taking. So it's a step-by-step process. It's absolutely doable. And as we both mentioned, always want to have the conversation with your physician when making any medication changes.
One thing we haven't mentioned, which Denise made a nice video for us, and it takes a month for Lysulin to start working. So don't expect, to eat a meal and take a Lysulin capsule or whatever, and expect your glucose not to go up, because it's not insulin, it's Lysulin. It's totally different than insulin, and it's been proven to improve your insulin resistance, which is a big problem for all people with pre-diabetes, type 2 and type 1 diabetes. They all eventually develop insulin resistance, and Lysulin is the only product that targets the cause of insulin resistance in type 2 diabetes. It will stop that reaction from happening. That's how I came up with the formula. So
it's a great formula, let me tell you. I love it.
Well, it loves you too, Denise.
You mentioned, Dr. Burd, you mentioned type 1 diabetes, and that was actually one of the next questions that we had. It came through on one of our social media posts, and this is a person whose partner, I believe, has type 1 diabetes, and they're interested in the Lysulin itself, and are wondering if it's safe to take as a type 1, someone with type 1 diabetes, and what the approach would be. Of course, speak with your physician, but what other advice and info can you offer?
Yeah, we have a definite opinion and position on that, and that is that the product is made primarily for people with pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes, and it will slow the progression from or halt the progression from pre-diabetes to type 2 diabetes. But people with who take insulin, which is everyone who has type 1 diabetes, you have to be careful, because if you take insulin and Lysulin, you can get hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, and that can be tragic if you get that in the middle of the night while you're sleeping. So if people have like a Dexcom continuous glucose monitor, it has a hypoglycemia alarm. So if your blood sugar gets too low, it will shake, rattle, and roll and wake you up, and you can realize your sugar's low, and you can take some glucose or drink some juice or something. So I've had a lot of people, almost 20 now, who have a Dexcom continuous glucose monitor, use the product, and they see improvements in their diabetes as well. They still have to take insulin, but they find that their amount of insulin they have to take, for many of them, drops if they take Lysulin. And like I said, everybody develops insulin resistance. It's just a part of a lifetime of glucose in your bloodstream. It's a reactive chemical, and it glycates all the proteins in your eyes and your nerve endings, your kidneys, everywhere. And that leads to problems. And Lysulin's the only product that can halt that reaction. So sorry for the long-winded response, but yeah, people with type 1 can use it if they have a continuous glucose monitor, I think. But if I had type 1 diabetes, and I didn't have a continuous glucose monitor with an alarm on it for low blood sugar, it's too risky to try it, I think. Hopefully the price of the continuous glucose monitors will drop they're too expensive in my humble opinion, but that's the way it is.
Okay, definitely think a lot of medications and tools for diabetes are very expensive and too expensive. But hopefully we're able to tackle that on our side with a more natural approach.
The other thing about all these prescription medicines is that they're oftentimes loaded with side effects. And you get, if your doctor prescribes a drug and you take it and you have some problem with of a variety of problems, your doctor's response will be to prescribe another drug to treat the side effects. And as a result of that, if you look around, the United States is full of people who are overweight, hooked on multiple prescription drugs, and still sick. And it's just a tragic story. And I really hate it when I hear or see people who with type 2 diabetes get put on insulin, because that is a one-way street to needing more and more and more insulin because your body has insulin resistance. So I'm on a mission to try to convince people, to convince their doctors to not put them on insulin, but try Lysulin for a couple months and see if it provides enough benefit that they do not have to get on insulin, because nobody wants to take shots.
No. And if I can add to that briefly, having previously been on insulin, I was on both the slow and the fast acting when I first got diagnosed, and medication for diabetes. So it was an awful lot to take. And one of the things I shared with my physician was I really didn't feel good. And the unfortunate response back was, well, it's not meant to make you feel good. We just need to get your glucose down. That's a huge red flag, because as Dr. Burd pointed out, we're adding a lot of medication, and even insulin has some side effects to it for many people. So if you can either get down to the lowest dose, which really most folks definitely can do that, and many can learn to come off of the insulin over a period of time, that natural process, and then you're adding in Lysulin in, and that's going to just help that process move along and work on your insulin resistance. As Dr. Burd mentioned, that's a much better protocol, and it's a healthier protocol compared to what we have seen. And I'll tell you, over between 2015 and 2018, 1.1 million people moved from a pre-diabetes to a type 2 diabetes status. And they're all medicated on one or more medications and insulin. So the current protocol out there is not helping and making diabetics healthier. So I think you have a much better shot with something like Lysulin and an overall healthy lifestyle. You can improve how you feel at the same time while you're improving your glucose levels.
Excellent. Thank you so much, both of you. The next question is actually, it speaks to something that you touched on, Dr. Burd, as far as side effects go. And this is specific to Lysulin. Many people who are considering taking Lysulin have taken lots of different medical routes thus far, and there is a huge concern about potential side effects and just having one more thing to deal with. So what types of side effects are most common with Lysulin, and how long can they be expected for? And maybe you could just give us some info on that itself.
Now, we've had a very small number of people that complain about upset stomach. And when we go back and ask them or suggest to them that they take Lysulin with food and water, almost all the time that vanishes. So that's really the only side effect that I know of. Denise, have you heard of any other side effects with Lysulin?
No, I've not heard any side effects at all, quite honestly. I have one client, she just has trouble, I think it was vitamin C. So we just picked a different form. We did it with food and all was just fine. So I agree. That's the only one I'm aware of, which is pretty good.
There is one side effect that actually is not a bad side effect. I I have a woman in San Francisco, a Chinese lady who's a diabetes educator, and I've sent her a lot of product, and she's had a lot of people use the product and again, seen really great results. But she had one patient who not only lowered her A1C, but she had irritable bowel syndrome, which I don't know how much you know about that, but that's where you're constantly, you have stomach upset or diarrhea and all kinds of pain. And she said that her irritable bowel syndrome also went away when she took Lysulin. Now, believe it or not, I was actually involved in a company that was that targeted Crohn's disease and irritable bowel syndrome. And I've tried to get doctors to try Lysulin for people that have irritable bowel syndrome, because there's a lot of them in the United States. And as usual, I cannot find a doctor who's willing to try it with some people with irritable bowel syndrome. So if you know anybody that has that kind of a stomach issue, you might try Lysulin. You never know. And again, the reason they have irritable bowel syndrome may be because glucose has glycated the lining of their stomach, and therefore it doesn't work right anymore. And Lysulin can stop that reaction. So it can hurt and it might help. It might not help too, but you never know until you do a big study. And we don't have the money to do that kind of a study, so that's not going to happen. And I can't find any gastroenterologists that are willing to try it on a few patients. So that's the story. I have so many problems with medical doctors trying to get them to try things for their patients, and they got nothing to lose. I mean, I'm happy to give samples for those types of studies, as you know. So, that's the other side.
I completely agree. I think they should be willing to try it. It's not medication. You're not looking at side effects. And I agree with you. I think in the digestive tract, when we start affecting those blood vessels due to the glycation with high glucose over years, you are going to be able to show up with IBS, constipation, diarrhea, you name it, and call it what you want. It's an issue for folks. So a non-medication that could possibly help it, along with some, good lifestyle changes, I think that's your best bet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. And maybe one day we'll be able to, bring in enough money, resources, support to be able to put together those big studies. That's the goal, right? To make this as widely available as possible. So thank you so much, Dr. Burd and Denise. I know we're coming to the end of our little 30-minute segment here, but I know I will see you both on here in the very near future. And again, if you're watching this, past this hour, please put your questions in the comments, and we will make sure to get to them and also address them in future segments.
Thanks, Brianna.
All right.
Thanks a lot. Good seeing you.
Have a great day. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.